Here we go.
This is amazing! I feel incredible! Yes, 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 yes!
Fucking Russians! Fight for the motherland! Fight for Russia! Fight for your families! Hurrah! Fight! Hurrah!
Not telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
Okay. This this looks good, but I can't trust anything that video game companies put out nowadays. So I'll try it because the game is free, but I am not sold on this game. I am not sold on this game at all.
3 days later.
So I have a confession to make. So I've had the finals for about 10 days. And in fact, just let me show you guys. I don't know if it's backwards for you guys. This is 32 hours. Yeah, the finals is absolutely amazing. Like, I have never been this excited to do a review before. And it's not only because I think the game is that good, it's because I truly feel like this could potentially be the revival of an entire genre. Because first-person shooters nowadays, they are not good. I truly feel like the last great 11 out of 10 FPS was probably Battlefield 1, and how that was 8 years ago. So you guys remember when 2042 was released, and we quickly realized how garbage it was? And then we all went back to Battlefield 5 and we're like,
Perhaps I treated you too harshly.
you know, I feel like that will forever be the narrative surrounding any good game that's released nowadays. Is the game actually good, or is it just an okay game that is seen as good because it's surrounded by absolute trash? And you know, I think that will forever be the question with the finals. Is the game actually good? Am I just overhyping it because of all the trash that surrounds it? Or am I just satisfied with a mediocre FPS because of all the garbage the FPS genre has spewed out over the years? Well, as the GOAT would say, let's equip our grapples, place down our gas mines, and jump right into this. Now, right off the bat, I will admit, I did play the finals beta, and I did not like it. But it's obviously the case that at that time, I did not appreciate some of the core gameplay elements until I replayed it with a much more open mind. But before we get to gameplay, the mechanics, or any of that, I truly feel like the first thing we need to talk about is the atmosphere and the uniqueness of the game. The game has a real-life tournament/arcade feel to it. Like, no joke, even when you die and your respawn timer is up, it literally says insert coin to enter the game. When you kill an enemy in certain game modes, they'll explode into coins. Just the way they flesh out the extreme sport/game show feel of the game is second to none. When you enter a game, you and your team literally run in and enter the arena. I love that effect. The classes you pick are also called contestants. All the contestants have a default jersey, a team name, and hell, even unique voice lines. And when you enter the game, there's also promos and banners set up like an actual arena. You know, like an NBA stadium or an NFL stadium. Now, the icing on the cake are the announcers and the environment. I really feel like they made voice lines for everything. Because if someone's carrying $20,000 in cash, the announcers will point out how stupid and how risky of a playstyle that is. If there's a squad wipe, the announcers will point that out. If a player from a particular team makes a big play, they'll even point that out. I mean, all of this and more just comes together to really exaggerate that feel that I'd spoken about before. The announcers actually sound like NFL, or like, to be more specific, esports commentators. And for the most part, they're not even really corny. They're actually decently funny at times.
A contestant with a lot of coins just became a lot less liquid. They've been eliminated.
Lastly, I think the environment of the game is absolutely perfect. I mean, you literally fight in a floating stadium with thousands of fans watching. Not only is this just cool to look out, it's actually really immersive. And look, I know a lot of people want me to hurry up and get to the gameplay and the map design, but I cannot stress how much all of these elements add to the feel and the immersiveness of the game. And for someone like me, I just have to give that a bunch of love. Now, call me crazy, I might be going too far when I say this, but the maps in this game are like prime Call of Duty or like prime Battlefield. That's how good these maps are in my opinion, and that's saying a lot. Now, obviously it's case that the maps are just absolutely beautiful and very creatively designed, but the bigger question is, how do they feel and exactly how do they play? And in my opinion, there's an underlying feeling of freedom and realism in this game. You know, one of my biggest issues with a lot of modern day FPS is that the developers simply control too much of the map. Whether it's invisible walls, just inaccessible areas, like for example, the Hourglass map on Battlefield 2042 is the biggest waste in gaming history. Half of these cool looking buildings are just inaccessible, and the ones that you can go into are extremely limited. In newer games, I really feel like I'm playing in a heavily restricted laser tag arena that is disguised as a factory or disguised as a skyscraper. But in the finals, when you're playing on a map and you enter a skyscraper, a parking garage, or a mall, it actually feels like you're playing in a skyscraper, a parking garage, or a mall. All of this is accessible, and this allows for gameplay moments that feel straight out of a movie. Like, chasing someone through the rooftops of Seoul while buildings explode around you and the building crumbles is just like...
Shut up and take my money!
Enemy has a cash box.
And here we go.
This is amazing! I feel incredible! Yes, 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 yes!
Fucking Russians! Fight for the motherland! Fight for Russia! Fight for your families! Hurrah! Fight! Hurrah!
Not telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
No time for bathroom break.
Now, call me a contrarian, but I feel like if I shoot an RPG at a wall, the wall should blow up.
What the fuck was that? I'm sorry.
And this is the case in the finals, and it makes the maps feel so alive. Now, as you can probably tell, I'm a huge Battlefield fan, and I can confidently say there's probably as close to as much destruction in this game as there was in Battlefield 3 and 4, and that's saying a lot. And what this does, at least in my opinion, is open up so many different and fun avenues of ways you can approach different situations. If your team is struggling to defend a cash out, just blow up the building. If you're pinned down by an enemy turret, you can just blow up the wall that the turret is pinned to. If a team has locked down an area that you're struggling to get into, well, just breach the wall. Like, there's so many different things that the destruction allows for that livens up the game. Another thing I love about this game is the different map variations. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I did not know there were only 4 maps in this game, because it really feels like there's 12. And this is because there's so many map variations that not only change the way that they look, but change the way that they play. And also, these maps are so big, it almost carries the Battlefield factor, which is, yeah, there may not be that many maps, but because the maps are so big, it's almost as if there's maps within the maps. There's so many areas that's I didn't even know existed until like my 5th playthrough of certain maps. Now, trust me, there are way more to these maps than I've explained in this section. There's items that you could use on the map. There's interactable things like elevators, traps, doors. I mean, I really don't even think I could say enough to fully describe them. You just really need to play the game yourself. And trust me, in my opinion, these are some of the best maps that any FPS has released in a long time.
An awkward moment for the Steamrollers. Team wiped.
You know, one of the reasons I'm so happy with the way the developers designed this game is because they understood the weaknesses or the potential weaknesses of their own game. And what I mean by this is that in a game where everyone in the lobby can just run around turning invisible, jump off skyscrapers, grapple away, or pull out an RPG in your face and destroy your team's defenses, like, you run the risk of there being so much destruction and so much chaos that the gameplay can feel without form. It can feel formless and become more annoying and frustrating than fun. And to be honest, there are times where this does happen when you're playing this game. But for the most part, the developers understood this risk and they implemented checks and balances to mitigate this. And in my opinion, that's what the class and weapon system is. You know, there's a lot of people who complained, at least in the beta, they complained that you can only carry one primary weapon and that you should probably be allowed to have a secondary. You're wrong. I don't think this at all. I mean, like, just imagine a medium player walking around, or even a heavy, walking around with a grenade launcher, explosive mines, and pyro grenades. Just an absolute tank being able to destroy everything in its path. And not only that, but absolutely change the way that you have to attack or defend the cash out. And then when you finally get this player in a one-on-one interaction, he pulls out a sidearm and kills you. Destruction being such a game-changing part of the game, the developers had to find a way to manage it. If you want to be a one-man wrecking crew with a grenade launcher, you are going to have to sacrifice some of your 1v1 viability. That this same design philosophy of risk-reward is fleshed out beautifully throughout the entire game. If you want to do Mission Impossible stuff, you're probably going to have to play as a light just for more mobility, but you sacrifice a lot of health. If you want to play as the heavy and tank bullets and lock down cash outs, you're probably going to have to sacrifice a lot of mobility. And if you play the medium, you get the best of both worlds, but just to a far lower degree. In my opinion, that's class balancing done right. This class system, in combination with the gadgets and specializations, really just sparks my desire to find a perfect playstyle. Because there's so many important advantages and disadvantages with the way that you can play, the wide array of options presents the player with crucial decisions that they have to make. And I think this is what makes the progression flow so beautifully. Because it's not shallow, it's multi-layered. If you've played this game, you know that because of all the gadgets and specializations, it's almost as if there's like classes within the classes. For example, if you want to play the light and be a hit and run expert, you're probably going to need a dagger and a grappling hook, but this makes you virtually useless in gunfights. But if you still want to play the light and be a little bit more aggressive, you're probably going to need to unlock the stun gun just in case you run up against the heavy. You see how the desire to use certain playstyles within a class can incentivize the player to progress and unlock different things? It's pretty close to perfect in my opinion. Then again, man, like in most FPS games nowadays, I go to the customization screen, I look at it, change a couple things for like 30 seconds, and that's it. That's all I do. This game really reminds me of the Call of Duty glory days when you would spend hours designing and perfecting your class to optimize your strengths. It's that kind of investment and honestly borderline addiction that is the marker of good balancing, class design, and progression. Now the game modes and maps are actually pretty similar, but as I said earlier, there's so much variation in how you play each game mode that it's not too much of an issue. You know, one of the issues with modern day Call of Duty, at the very least in the eyes of some people, is the lack of game modes, or at the very least the lack of new game modes. It's a similar case with Battlefield, but the difference is there's not too much of an issue with Battlefield because like within a game of Conquest, Rush, or even like Operations, there's pretty much other game modes built into it, and I think it's a similar case here in the finals. Unlocking or defending vaults, transporting money, attacking or defending cash outs, like it allows for an almost unlimited range of outcomes and set pieces, especially when you combine that with all the guns, contestants, and maps. And what this does, at the very least for me, what it does is create a constant element of surprise. Whenever you play this game, something can happen that's never happened to you before. And honestly, more than that, a lot of these moments are just cool. I mean, chasing a team through the snowy rooftops of Monaco, and dodging bullets and sliding down rooftops is just too good. But hey, it's not all chaos. Attacking vaults or cash outs is a full team effort, and having a plan and a diverse team is heavily favored, because those things are almost mandatory for success. That's right, Wraith, Octane mains, this game is not for you. But seriously, that feeling when an attack or a defense of a cash out turns into a long-winded battle with limited resources, massive amounts of destruction within the last minutes of the game, bro, getting a kill or a clutch revive is just a super satisfying feeling in those moments. And also, I think the developers took notes from Battlefield 1 because the kill sound is just addicting. More than that, I love the creativity that's involved with attacking or setting up defenses. And being a creative player and playing power positions gives you a massive advantage, and it makes it that much more rewarding. For example, if you're playing on Monaco and you're defending a cash out suspended in the air, you can just blow up the neighboring platforms to make it harder for teams to approach you. I mean, using tactics like this to hoard off waves after waves of teams and waves of enemies while the battlefield explodes around you is just utterly amazing. I mean, I seriously don't think my hands have sweat this much when playing a video game in a long time, which is a good thing. As for the guns, they are cool and diverse. In fact, I'm very happy that the developers made the guns the way they are, because a lot of the weapons in this game aren't even guns. You can use throwing knives, swords, riot shields. There's a bunch of weapons that play a distinct role in the game that give you distinct advantages or disadvantages. For example, if you want to use throwing knives, you're crazy, but if you can hit your shots, you're kind of a force to be reckoned with. As for movements, it feels good but not great. The movement is smooth and the weapons do feel great though. Now, this is not to say the game was without flaws. I mean, I think like 10 seconds ago I just said the movement is good and not great. And it's because there are times when you're near a window and you like ever so slightly tap up on the analog stick and your character goes like flying out the window. And with all the destruction and chaos, there's times where the game feels really jittery, and when you're moving through debris, like your character just glitches everywhere.
What the fuck was that?
Speaking of chaos and destruction, I said earlier that there's times where the game can feel very frustrating and annoying, and yeah, it definitely can. There's so many teams and so many angles and so much destruction. There's a lot of instances where you don't even know what kills you, and you die to like a random person or like a random explosion. Oh, and if you're playing the light and you randomly run headfirst into a heavy, you're dead. You're pretty much dead. Unless you have a stun gun, there's basically nothing you can do. You can unload a full clip into a heavy and they'll take every single bullet and you will die. I think the game is nearly perfect, but there are things like that I wish they could do a little bit better job of balancing. You know, I'm not going to go into everything regarding customization. To be honest, for a free game, I was not expecting all of these options, but I really do appreciate the feelings of personalization the game gives you. And all in all, I'm just excited for this game going forward. I think the core gameplay is so good and so fun that like I don't even have to look into what they're going to release in the future to be excited about it, because I know what's going to be quality and I know what's going to be good. I cannot wait to see what they add to this game in the coming seasons. But I mean, more than anything, I'm excited about where this pushes the FPS scene in the future. I really hope developers follow in the footsteps of Embark and, you know, just stop releasing garbage ass games. Call of Duty, stop with the yearly releases. I really hope the developers stop with the yearly trash releases and start putting love into their games, because in the finals you definitely feel the love, and I really appreciate that. So I mean, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. You know, I'm normally the Naruto anime power scaling guy. I'm trying to branch out, cover videos on different topics. I think I'm gonna make a video on Apex and why it's losing popularity as of late. But anyway, then again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.